Alright, so here is kind of a lowboy dresser that I picked up at an auction. And I'm gonna prime it and put some cool designs on it. It had some of the veneer peeling off around the corners. So I just went in and put some wood filler and taped down the veneer that was peeled up. I've got to sand that down. Kind of did the same thing on this side. So here's a nice little before video. You can see this thing's pretty ugly, but it has some hope. After coating the dresser with 2 coats of latex primer and a coat of matte white paint, I get to work on my dresser. I'm using a Martha Stewart stencil right now to do the center and just give myself a base. Then I take a compass and draw some circles. I measure it all out with a tape measure so I have a sense of where my inches intersect all around the perimeter of the mandala. And then I sketch out my first 2 circles using just a normal pencil. I'm taking a fine liner brush here with my dark gray paint and going around and doing the interior petals of my mandala. Now, for this step in the process, you want to have a good general sense for where things are going to be, so you'll notice me putting some dots to sort of guide my lines. And that just helps me make the petals a little bit more even. Obviously, I go through and further add some yellow to the petals before moving on to my second layer, which has elongated light gray petals. And using a brush, I'm just going around and making this piece a little bit bigger. What I like about painting mandalas is that you can make a lot of different mistakes. Like, there are a ton of mistakes in this drawing so far, and there's just no chance that anyone will really notice when the final product is done. I think the mistakes give it kind of a human quality, which I like a lot. I prefer this over the machine drawn mandalas or the mandalas that are just perfectly measured so that every petal and every line is absolutely flawless. So I've added a few more designs, drawn another layer of my petals. I did use a marker to outline the outermost petal and some of the interior detail designs. And now I'm going in with some dark gray paint just to make the colors pop a little bit further off of the mandala. And I really like how this one's turning out. It's a very nice design. It's relaxing to draw. Actually out in my garage doing this, so it's a bit hot. But I'm enjoying myself and making a very nice piece. Using my canary yellow, I go on with a flat paintbrush and add in the color all the way around the design. The paint's drying very fast, so I'm not too worried about smudging or making lines where I shouldn't. What's fun about art is that you can use the same tools for different things, and in this case, I just take my paintbrush and flip it so that I can draw dots all the way around the inside of the circle. And this gives it a little bit more texture as well, so that when you're looking at the mandala, it does look like pieces of it are higher than others, and it's sort of coming out at you. I ended up sketching out a little bit of a vine pattern, which I'm going through with some dark gray and just outlining here. I wish I could say I did this completely freehand without drawing, and it is freehand, but it is also measured. If you have an uneven symmetrical design, it doesn't look so hot. Once I've done the right side of my dresser, I move on to the left. I do a similar design, but flip the pattern. And then using my pinky finger, I'm stabilizing the brush so that I can draw in somewhat straight lines as I'm going all the way around and around and doing details. Rather than add green to my design and throw off the color scheme, I use yellow for my leaves. You know, I've got 2 grays and I've got my yellow. And I guess I have black and white, but those aren't technically colors. The more simple you keep it, the better the dresser is going to look. I don't need 100 colors on my dresser. I have 100 colors inside my dresser with my clothes. I don't need 100 colors on the outside too. So this step here, I just take a paintbrush and some dark gray paint and just line the lip of the drawer. I think that adds a really nice touch, and I recommend doing it to most of your pieces. When you're pulling out the drawer, you see a nice finished tip. Once I finished my drawers, my mandala paint was dry for what I had just added, so I went through and added another layer of light gray leaves just to give it a little bit more of an accent. I discovered when I put paint over the dark gray color with a light gray on the petals where the vine connects to the mandala that it actually doesn't show through, which I was surprised. The paint is quite opaque. And what this meant was that I was able to go back through the mandala and cover up any errors, cover up any lines or pieces of the design that I didn't care for. And I ended up liking the dark gray over the vine, so I left it and I filled that little bit in later. Going around in a circle, I flip my brush again and I'm adding some more dots just to give it a little bit more texture in the center. I'm trying to be fairly careful where I put my hand at this point because smudges on the white part of the dresser are fairly difficult to get out. Moving back over to the drawers, I had drawn out a very simple circle in the center of each one. I did measure to make sure that the design was a certain distance from the top and bottom of the drawers so that when they're closed they look nice and even. And then I just added a very simple design on the top. You'll notice that as I'm working, I am outside the garage, which is why you see a lot of different shadows and colors moving across because it's a cloudy day. Not a rainy day, but a cloudy day. If it had rained, I'd be really screwed. I think all my art would have been ruined. So, yay that didn't happen. And of course, I can't leave well enough alone, so once I got the simple design done, I wanted to add some dots. And then the dots became more colorful dots on the inside, and then I took a brush and made those into petals until I was finally satisfied with the piece. Back to the main dresser, I have completely redone the center to cover up the original stencil that I had used to start my pattern. I didn't end up liking the stencil. I thought it looked a bit sloppy. I think it was meant to be used with a spray paint rather than a brush and latex paint. So I ended up covering it up and just redoing the whole thing, adding some nice little details and designs along the edge. To finish up the dresser, I use a polyurethane spray, and I just go through with a face mask on and spray the dresser a few times, make sure that the design is sealed, and we're ready to go. Okay, hope you've enjoyed this video. I decided to put this dresser in my guest room. It looks splendid. Attaching a quick pic here for you to check it out. If you're not yet following me on YouTube, be sure to subscribe. I'll also put a link to my Instagram where I regularly post updates and art pieces.